How do you? So you're from Westchester. How do you guys know each other just from social media, or from him being living in Connecticut at one
Did you
point?
guys not meet at the event?
No.
I don't think so. Okay.
John was the one who took up the collection plate for me.
Oh,
Is
nice.
Yeah,
that what we call it?
it's a collect. Yeah, the church collection plate to try to get me to not have to fucking sell my feet pics on Instagram.
You love Jesus? You love Iran?
Yeah. Just keep in mind he's still selling feet pics.
Yeah. Well, listen.
He's worked his way up to the knee. If things don't go well,
Any higher, it's getting bad.
well, you could tell that he's getting close to selling higher when the bathroom pics get just shy of scrotum. When you could see the whole like curve of the toilet bowl between his legs,
the front of the bowl.
That's just a preview of what's being sold to men in where do you like India?
Usually Pakistan or
Pakistan.
Iraq is a really big viewership these days.
Yeah. So
it's a very repressed culture over there. They'll take foreskin all day long.
Yeah. So sometimes he sends a picture of just his testicles hanging out of the fly of his shorts, but the penis is actually still tucked in. Just that, like a beans over the Franks kind of thing.
But that's not even strategy. That's just necessity because there's not much Frank and there's a lot of bean.
John, a lot of beans. A lot of beans.
Not a lot of Frank.
It's gonna be one of those chats, or
a lot of beans.
We'll talk about fitness and nutrition soon enough.
His nickname is Flatulence, not because he farts, but because of how much beans he's got.
I do want to start off this podcast by saying something really nice about John.
Oh,
yeah. So,
do you want to give the story of how we met?
The PG rated version.
Was he living in Pakistan at the time?
One of my customers from John was
weird picture on my phone.
John was doing a air bike tour in Iraq, and and he was bored one night and he subscribed to my OnlyFans. And 2 years later, here we are. Now, John and I met at the first Raise the Bar I went to. Shout out to Nick Lamb. And John was very unassuming. Wasn't super loud yet because we hadn't really gotten to talking. And he immediately stood out to me because he said something that was so fucking profound that I thought it was amazing. Because here we are in a room full of like mostly online coaches. And John just goes, I don't give a fuck about being online. He goes, if I own the 2 mile radius around my gym and on my block, then I know I'm doing something right. And from that moment on, I'm like this. And then he started talking to me about like how long he's been running his business for. He's in his mid-30s. He's got the location that's been open for over 10 years. He owns multiple rental properties, and just a fucking all around hardworking, smart, non-douchey. Because a lot of people from that region of New York are very douchey. Not douchey, super humble. And I was just like, this is my people. Let's go out and get weird. And we went to a weird fucking nightclub in Dallas. I did everything I could. I did everything I could in my power to find drugs, and I couldn't find any. The crowd at the club was probably
so bizarre. But
the way that you feel today, Jim, was what the crowd looked like. So it was like,
is it because they were all looking for drugs and they couldn't find them either? So they're just all like looking like daywalkers.
Well, so 99.9% of that story is exactly how it went down. But I would just kind of add, like, we didn't just end up at this. It seemed like a random club. Like,
it was premeditated.
I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of house music. I DJ for a hobby, and the week prior to that Raise the Bar conference, one of my favorite DJs had played at this club in Dallas. And I'm like, oh, there's a club in Dallas. Let me check this place out. And it was pretty much, right near where the Raise the Bar conference was. I'm like, oh, let me see who's going to be there the weekend I'm there for the conference.
Yeah, if a guy I like just played there,
so there
let's
was
check this place out.
Another DJ who I was familiar with that was going to be performing there. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to check this guy out. I'm going to be in Dallas. Why don't I just check this club out? So I didn't really want to go to the club by myself. So, there's not many people at a fitness conference that you could just say, hey, you want to go to some random club I've never been to? Like, I don't know what to expect, but Aram is one of those people who is down to ride. He's like, yeah, fuck it, I'll go with you. So we end up at this club, and I mean, this isn't like New York City clubs, man. It was weird.
What was that place called? Do you remember? I forgot.
It was called It'll Do Club.
It'll do.
Literally, just like they just put a fucking building in the middle of nowhere, and they're like, "It'll do." Like that's literally.
Oh my god, that's genius!
Shout out to It'll Do Club. It was, it was a cool spot. I see that they're still doing. They have a lot of good talent that goes through that place. But from someone who's partied in some of New York, Miami's, and Vegas's best clubs, it was a little bit of an adjustment being at that place for sure.
It was like
an adjustment.
It was like if you just had steak at Peter Luger's and you went and got steak at Denny's instead. It's still a steak, but it's a little different.
Definitely had a Denny's crowd in there.
Oh, fuck Denny's crowd. I mean, the people that were it got to a point where the bouncer, I don't even think was checking IDs. He just fell asleep at the front door and just was letting any creature in that would walk in. That's what it was. And that's how John and I met. And then fast forward 2 years later, he fucking saved my ass at my event by putting the collection plate out and asking people to donate to the cause. And that's it. I'm forever indebted to him.
It's awesome. It'll do,
It'll do. So, John, tell us about your rise to stardom from the early formings of the Moljo Training Center to where you are now, writing books about how to kill yourself on an air bike.
All right, so just a quick summary. So I've been a certified personal trainer since 2009. I got my first personal training job as a senior in college at SUNY Plattsburgh, where I also interned as a fitness director. My primary original education is in business, so my bachelor's degree is in business management, but I enjoyed fitness. I really got into fitness. In high school, I had an ACL injury. I was overweight, pretty much like rehabbed the ACL, lost some weight. That started my fitness journey, started my passion for fitness. And through college, I kind of realized, all right, well, you're in the gym all the time. You've got an entrepreneurial spirit. You've got an education in business right now. So I ended up essentially combining all three of those things 4 years after I graduated college. I worked in a corporate gym, didn't go well because I tend to have a very, very strong type A personality, and that doesn't mesh well with new management when you're like 21, 22 years old and you can't really, respect the chain of command. So long story short, was fired from my big box gym position, but a year and a half after that is essentially when I signed the lease for my first location for Team Moljo. 2015, we opened up 3,500 square feet. Essentially, it was me and I had a part-time employee. We grew out of that place in 3 years, relocated. Now we're 8,500 square feet. Our team right now is 7. Our largest team at one point was 10. And we have about 120 active clients right now. And we are in our 10th year of brick and mortar location. I'm in my 15th year in the industry. So
it's awesome. And this is a dude with like less followers than Jimmy on Instagram.
That's hard to find. It's hard to find.
That Raise the Bar conference. So that Raise the Bar conference was, I had two, I don't want to say aha moments because they didn't change my life by any means, but it was the Raise the Bar conference, and they asked, how many people in here have an Android? And I was the only motherfucker to put my hand up. An Android. And I got flamed, and then we broke up into like groups for something, and everyone was exchanging Instagrams. And someone was like, well, what's your Instagram? I'm like, well, I don't have an Instagram. I have an Instagram for my business, but I don't even look at it or manage it. Like my team manages that stuff. They're like, what do you mean? You don't have a personal Instagram? And I was like, no, I don't. They're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? So I got so bullied at this conference. So literally at the conference is when I made my own personal Instagram. So if you look back at my Instagram to my first post, it's like, all right, here's my Instagram for like bullying me at the Raise the Bar conference. So I just celebrated my like 1 year anniversary for my Instagram back in February.
But you still have an Android.
Yes, that's never going to change.
So yeah, so we still haven't learned lessons that
iPhones,
you know.
He just likes to be controversial with the green text. It's very much better for the St. Patrick's time of year.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Do you have a?
Should I get from it?
Do you own a Hewlett Packard?
No.
Computer.
So I have a Microsoft tablet, and then I actually have an Apple laptop for DJing.
Interesting.
Nice.
So you do have an Apple. You did support some of Steve Jobs' work.
And then we do have 3 iPads at the gym that we use for checking in, music, shit like that.
You're
like
very confused.
My whole team is all Apple. Like it's
so they love.
It's so frustrating to them that I'm a green text, but it's just
that they can't name the group chat because of you. That's great. Thanks.
They will all have to get an Android before I get an iPhone, and they know
that. Man, they should all buy you an iPhone just for the group text with the staff, and that's all you use it for.
They send, I don't know, for some reason, whenever an iPhone sends an Android a picture or video, it looks like it's from fucking dial-up AOL days.
Yes.
You guys have to send me everything on WhatsApp. I don't know.
Yeah. It looks like it's coming from like the old country. It looks like it's coming from like the old flip phone videos.
Yeah.
You know those. That's funny.
Well, I like what I think is it's just any coaches that are listening to this right now. This is a dude that's been in the industry for 15 years, 10 of it brick and mortar, survived one of the fucking most difficult times in our industry that I think we've ever faced because everybody was forced to basically go online and John didn't. And here he is now 10 years later, still thriving, still doing stuff, building a community. And and I think that's the thing that really sets him apart is that his gym isn't just a facility that you walk in and out of and expect some type of result. His gym truly is something that fosters community. People are connected. They understand the Moljo name. They understand the standards that come with that. He educates everybody that walks through that door. He doesn't just tell them what to do. He teaches them what to do and tries to make them autonomous. I know you've been working on the ebook thing for a while now, and that's been coming together nicely because you're really trying to spread that education around. So talk to me about the education piece of this stuff for you and how it helps your clientele obviously stay engaged, but also get results that they're hoping for.
Yeah. So I think the ultimate point of differentiation we strive for, in addition to, I think, providing a unique community to the area and a place where people can actually connect and have conversations and interact with other people is education. And we live in a strong middle class area where people are incredibly busy. Their time, their financials are finite. So they're always looking for ways to maximize their fitness, maximize their nutrition, maximize their life. And as someone who gets to spend 3 to 6 hours with them in person, we really have to educate them on how they can actually do those things. And, as much as I have remote I have remote clients. I do online coaching, and I've done it long enough to confidently say that there's nothing like being with someone in person and being able to change things and have conversations with things on the fly, get immediate feedback for something. So that would be the biggest point of differentiation. It's like you're going to get real fast, real quick, real time attention. And you're going to feel the energy exchange and the emotion that comes between that. So that's the one component of it. And then obviously, I'm a huge advocate of education. I travel twice a year to these conferences to further my education, but bring things back to my staff so I can continue to develop my staff. And that's where I know our facility really, really strives, is providing a platform for coaches to grow, develop, and not cap them. And in other brick and mortar gyms or big corporate gyms, at least in the area, these trainers get jobs and it's kind of like a set it and forget it. It's like, all right, you're a certified trainer, just go and kind of figure some things out. And that's challenging because we all know that getting clients isn't something that just happens after you get a certification or an education. You can know anything and everything about nutrition and fitness, but that doesn't mean people are going to actually hand you over some money and want to train with you in any capacity. So being able to develop your coaches into understanding that your knowledge around fitness and nutrition is only one part of the equation. You have to be able to have good connection skills, good managerial skills, right? You're your own independent business. You have to coordinate scheduling with your clients, have conversations with your clients. You have to be disciplined. You have to show up on time. Like when you're online, you don't necessarily have, if someone sends you a message, you don't have to answer it by 5 or 6 in the morning. But if you have a client at 6 a.m., you got to show up and you got to be there for that person at that time.
Not 5:45.
Yeah, there's a lot of other skills that are part of the demand of being an in-person coach, and I take pride in being able to develop coaches into understanding all of the things that it takes to be a successful in-person coach, because I think a successful in-person coach will have a lot better carryover to the online world than vice versa. And I'm not going to speak on behalf of everyone, but if someone has been coaching in person successfully for 10 years or 12 years, as long as they kind of understand technology, I think they will have some success working with people remotely. If someone has only been working remotely and has never seen someone move or heard someone breathe or had a conversation with someone and felt the emotion of that skin to skin connection, they might not necessarily have a strength in face-to-face training. So
what's an area of self-development that you're maybe into lately, whether it's business, personal, training? Is there something that you're kind of getting into, just being somebody who is traveling a couple times a year, somebody who's into self-development?
For me right now, my big focus is more on the leadership side and public speaking side of things. I enjoy having conversations. I enjoy sharing knowledge, sharing education. I'm hopeful to one day be able to present. I've spoken in seminars at conferences before. I'm hopeful to continue to be able to speak at bigger conferences and seminars in the future. And we do a lot of in-person workshops here at the gym. And if I want to run a successful in-person business, I know that any opportunity I have to be in front of someone is an opportunity for me to captivate that person, develop a relationship with that person. And if you have great public speaking skills, great connection skills, then more likely I'm going to attract more people to the gym, attract better quality coaches and talent to the facility, and get more opportunities to have some good speaking engagements that could potentially serve my career a lot of benefit in the future.
Man. What topic would you speak on right now if you were told, hey, we want you to speak at this? What topic would you pick right now?
Building a successful brick-and-mortar business and
Nice.
developing a culture-based team and business and having an impact in your community.
Nice.
Then I would probably talk about the air bike, and then I would talk about house music and DJing.
Perfect.
I like it.
Or you could talk about the air bike while playing house music and DJing.
I could do that.
What would your? I feel like he'd have to have. That's what you do. You get the air bike. You have your favorite DJ as the walkout song. The air bike is on like a dolly, and instead of you walking up on stage, someone's pushing you while you're just riding the air bike. There's a nice oldie. Yeah, that's. I think you're welcome for that. That was your. That's an experience that you need to make happen.
I would like to be known synonymously with. When someone hears the air bike, I want them to think of Coach Moljo. Like, look, right in my office. Like, this is literally like right. These are the kind of gifts that my clients get me for the holidays.
So what do you?
Do you do John, the foam roller game?
We've done the air bike. We've done the foam roller game. Yes. Yep.
John, when you do the in-person stuff at your gym and you do seminars there, what kind of are you picking specific topics to educate the community on, or is it kind of just that whatever you feel they need?
Yeah, so it's a bunch of different things. I give my staff opportunities to run in-house workshops, so they can choose a topic. Like one of my staff members has done a workshop on sciatica. We serve student athletes as well as the adult demographic, so we'll do stuff for student athletes. One of my instructors is also Pilates certified. We have a yoga. One of our staff members is yoga. She's going to run a puppy yoga workshop here at the gym. So
I saw that.
I give the staff freedom to choose, And then we outsource things as well. I've had kettlebell workshops done by people in the industry. I've had a PPSC certification hosted here.
Nice.
Nick's going to be hosting his Impact Speaker workshop here in
Nice.
July. And I think that's also one of the biggest perks about being a brick and mortar is I could say, oh well, let's run a fucking workshop here. Let's do it here. It's it's a sunk cost, the overhead we have here, and then it's usually pretty advantageous for the facility host and some of my staff because I get to at times get a prorated rate for either myself or my staff as far as education. Yep. We don't have to pay for travel or hotel because this is where we're located, and it makes it easier. It's really hard to get people to get 3, 4, 5 hours or a full day or a full weekend to get some education. So having the facility makes it a little bit easier for people to want to do it and a little bit less expensive as well. Like entry-level trainers, it's, think about an entry-level trainer and what they make, and think about a weekend conference like a ROMS. That's huge.
It's tough,
it's huge. So you're going to take someone away from work, where in most coaching, in some of coaching, I don't want to say back in the day it wasn't most, but maybe now, it's time and money. If you're not training or working, you're not getting paid. And now you're going to go travel and put me in Las Vegas where I know I'm going to be spending money. And, you spent whatever X amount of money on the conference, but then you have all the ancillary expenses that cost with it. So before you know it, you've spent thousands of dollars on this education. And then you also didn't make a week's wage. So, it's factoring things in like that. So having a facility and being able to bring stuff in-house eliminates some of those things, which is a pro. But then again, there's also things that are invaluable to attend and travel for workshops as well. So
yeah, that's nice that you pay for all your employees to go.
Oh, I don't pay. I don't pay for them to go, but they get a lot of credits toward their education. They usually get a kickback. If we do something in-house, we get it usually prorated, and then I'll probably pay anywhere from 25 to 75%.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah.
It's inexpensive for them, and I have full-time staff who I'll generally take care of everything, and then I have part-time independent contractors who I'll take care of a portion of it. And then when they get full-time, then I more than likely would just take care of all of it.
And I just also want people to understand the demographic that John is serving and the area that he's in, from a location standpoint, geographically, is probably one of the toughest markets when it comes to the fitness industry in I would say in the country, outside of maybe things like LA, Dallas, San Diego, Miami. There is a massive, massive, massive need for doing this the right way. There's a ton of gyms in that area, Westchester County, Southern Connecticut. There's a fucking gym on every corner. Half of them didn't survive through COVID for the reason that just people just used it as a place to walk in and walk out of. There was no relationship building. Even the gym that I was working at was a small boutique facility that was about 3,500 square feet. And they refused to cut corners. They refused to keep the doors open. They wanted to go online and adopt the fucking Beachbody model because it was easy. And I just refused to be a part of it. And I just think that it says a lot about John's integrity as a business owner and the care that he has for his clientele base to keep them engaged, keep them active in every way possible, to make sure that he's still delivering on the service that he promised to deliver. And not a lot of gyms today will fucking do that because it's easier just to say, you know what, you guys are going to keep paying us and we'll give you some bullshit program to follow online, which you're not going to do anyway. Yeah. And that allows me to put my head at night on the pillow at night thinking that I did something right. But dude, how were you able to, 10 years brick and mortar is not easy to maintain.
I was going to say, what was like the darkest moment in business ownership?
Yeah. It would absolutely have to be the pandemic.
How'd that go down? What was your area like? I'm 10 minutes from Ian at Attila's gym, who was all over the news. Okay. Attila's gym. Yeah. Ian, I can't remember his last name right now for some reason. But yeah, I'm 10 minutes from him. I had a buddy who his gym, he kept open, but just kind of papered up the walls. It wasn't obvious. He's having people park out back where he's not doing the Ian thing where it's like, fuck you, Murphy, we're staying open. What'd you do? You can't get in trouble for it now. Tell us.
No, it's not.
You little dirty bird.
So there's a lot of moving parts. So we immediately went virtual, and our business model up until about 2 years ago was large group class, private training, and then semi-private small group training, 2 to 6 people. Our biggest profit center at the time, which was probably worth 60% of our monthly revenue, was classes. So we went immediately to online training, where we did all of our classes. We streamed them online, and a good portion of our membership stayed with us. A lot of our clients, they work for the state, so they had jobs. They were all working remote. So we actually had a good portion of our business initially stay with us for classes. But then in New York, what happened is things kept changing for gyms. You can operate at 30%. You can operate at 60%. You can't fully open till this day, or you have to have this vaccine or this mask, this, and the goalpost just kept moving.
Yeah.
So, for us, it was like this 1.5 to 2 year of, all right, we can do this for 6 weeks, and then we're going to have to pivot and change and do this for 6 weeks and pivot and change and do this for 6 weeks. So we did a lot of stuff online, and then I still saw clients in person at the gym off the radar. And I did that until I didn't want any of because we didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if I was going to get arrested if I was training someone.
How many clients did you kill by breathing on them over that time?
So, and that's the other thing. And then in a community-based gym, you have people who talk, right? So you have people who had beliefs about this, people who had beliefs about that, and people made decisions based on those things. They either wanted to continue and be a part of the community. They didn't want to continue to be a part of the community. People just got up and fucking left New York because they couldn't take it anymore. So things changed that were out of our control. Our class model got wiped out 50%, but our personal training and group training, people gravitated more towards that. So at the end of COVID, although we had lost probably around like 80K in revenue, 90K in revenue, we had a higher client value because people switched to a higher ticket offering that we had. So that was the silver lining of it. Classes were the main staple of our community and our gym, but at the end of the day, there's people I'm thankful for. Our landlord, right? He was very accommodating for rent. He worked with us as we got through it. So there was just a lot of moving parts. We did everything remote, online. I saw some people at the gym. We would run stuff outside. We built out an outside training space. So anything you can imagine that we did to make it work, we did to make it work. And I'm always going to be grateful for the members that if we asked them to go train, somewhere, they were going to show up and they were going to be there because, one, they supported us, but I strongly feel like that we were providing a significant amount of value and a significant need for people when they needed it the most, because people were just sitting home doing nothing. So if for 2 hours or 3 hours they could flip open their Zoom and they could see other members of the gym, they could see a coach, they can get a workout in, they can interact with other people. People needed that at that time. So
did you meet at parks or anything like that? Because you kind of alluded to they'll meet wherever. Did you get any of that kind of stuff going on during that time?
We have an outside area that I'm like, all right, we got to build this out. So where the gym is now currently, it used to be a nursery school. So they had a little playground outside. So we ripped up the whole playground. We blocktopped outside. We put some shades out, and then we just had classes outside. And we have these 3 exterior doors that opened up to that. So you can get into the gym. We opened all the windows. It was essentially it was like an open air gym. It could have been, because there's so many doors and windows, but we couldn't be inside, but we could step right outside and train. It just didn't make any fucking sense. And, I understand people were trying to figure out the world back then, but I would say being involved as an owner in that, you just, every day you're like, what the fuck is happening? None of this makes sense at all. We are trying to help people to the best of our ability, and you are denying me the ability to do that.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it was so much turmoil. And look, we still feel the effects. We still feel the effects from it. Anyone in fitness, right? And I think in any career, it's and it's just like investing. Like time is your friend, right? So you make investments, and over time you continue to make investments. You continue to make investments, and all of a sudden the market collapses, right? Like then you have to go back and rebuild. So you put in an incredible amount of work just to get back to where you were. In training, year after year, you get more clients, you raise your rates, you make more money. You get more clients, you raise your rates, you get more money. All of a sudden, COVID hits, and you now knocked a year 7 trainer, year 8 trainer business back to year fucking 3. And now I'm working to get back to what I was in year 7, year 8, but I'm really in year 13 and year 14. So that's a challenging thing to deal with. And I tell people this all the time. This is how I know that I'm in the right industry. Through the pandemic, one thing I love about being an entrepreneur is most of the time your success is directly related to how hard you work. The harder you work, the more successful generally, and the more good things happen. During the pandemic, it was the hardest I ever worked in my entire life. I spent more time doing things at the gym, more coaching, more time trying to figure out what New York State was trying to do. And it was the least amount of return of investment I got for all my labor. Financially, emotionally, because it was just like, why am I doing all this? Like everyone else is shutting down. People are moving to fucking Florida where you could do whatever the fuck you want. Like, I'm like, I could just get up and go. Like this business is the only thing that's tying me to this area. But that was the most challenging thing for me. But, I had a great staff that supported me through the entire thing. I was fortunate where we were able to keep everyone on payroll throughout the entire thing. And I think the community is what really helped us survive through that. And the community is definitely what kept me here. That's for sure.
Yeah. You guys ever hear the story of the fisherman and the traveling businessman?
I've not.
The guy, this traveling business guy, just a little burnout, takes vacation to Japan, wherever. And he sees this guy fishing, and he talks, and it turns out this guy every day gets up, eats breakfast with his family, goes fishing, just fishes enough, gets enough to feed his family, comes home, they cook up the fish, he takes a nap, and they have dinner, and just enjoys his day, goes home, and just does that every day. And the traveling businessman's like watching him, going like, this is all you do? You just do this? He's like, yeah. He goes, there's a lot of fish out there. He's like, yeah, there's a lot of fish. He's like, why don't you like catch a ton of fish, like be out here, fish all day, like, get all this stuff. And then you can sell those fish. Then you can get more boats, then you can get more employees, and then you can blah, 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 blah. And then one day you'll be able to retire. And he's like, well, what will I do then? He's like, whatever you want. He's like, could I get up and like just have breakfast with my family? Businessman's like, yeah. He goes, could I just go fishing that afternoon? He's like, yeah. He's like, can I come home and have dinner with my family and take a nap? He's like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. Like totally missing the point. Like this guy's living what his retirement dream is. And then we're get so stuck in this building, growing so that we're not living what we want to do. And as you are just telling your story over COVID, I'm like, I just want to remind you, like you're doing what clearly you love doing.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to get caught up in building that we miss out the fact that you're doing what you actually just love doing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's cool. Yeah. But it's obviously good. Hey, let's grow up business, all the stuff. It sucks to struggle and whatnot. But it's good every now and then just kind of sit back and be like, I love what I'm doing and, keep crushing it. But yeah, man.
Well, it's a great testament too, to just human will and just knowing that during the hardest time of his life, he got the least return on his investment, but he never stopped. And I think so many people today, whether it's a fat loss goal, whether it's a relationship issue, whether it's financially driven or a business goal, people hit that sign of resistance and they don't lean into it. They back out and they don't keep trying. And they're like, well, what's the fucking point? I'm trying so hard. I'm getting very little out of it. Well, if you don't keep spinning your wheels a little bit, if you don't keep trying to at least put your foot on the gas pedal to some extent, you're not going to have any forward momentum.
Right.
And I think and one of the things that I think we all try to impart on our clients is that you're not going to have weekly progress. It's not always going to be easy. the runway is not always going to be wide open for you to just do whatever the fuck you want and have whatever time you have to dedicate to the thing that you want to do. But if you quit, you know exactly what result you're going to get. Zero.
Yeah.
And oftentimes those things I fully believe are like the catalyst. It's like a rubber band, like COVID, it was pulling you back, and then it just can launch you forward, because then you find out what parts of your business now you got higher ticket items. Yep. Now you have more people that are doing that, so more people are interested in maybe doing that because they see the small group or the one-on-one.
Yep.
And that whole thing could be the catalyst to have a business bigger than ever was pre-COVID. And if COVID didn't happen and didn't adapt.
It definitely, to add to your point about that story, is I learned to work smarter. I would say in 2022 and 2023 that those 2 years were the best work-life balance years of my life.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, what most business owners and entrepreneurs strive for. You have to get to that point, and I've never been someone who just, wants to build this business and be a complete separate entity, and the business just is this thing that operates on its own and I just collect revenue from it. I've never wanted to be that person, but I know from 2014 when I first signed my lease through to now, there's 7 days a week was no problem. 12-hour days, no problem. Like the most amount of time I've ever been away from my gym is 6 days. 6 days in 10 years. And I don't say that because I enjoy being work, because I don't have this life I want to escape from. Like, exactly. I leave and I'm like, oh man, I want to get back to the gym. I enjoy being at it.
And that's how you avoid burnout, by actually doing what you love doing.
But there's 2 days now I work past 5 o'clock. I don't work past 5 o'clock. I'm done usually by like 3 or 4 o'clock. I used to work Saturdays and Sundays. Now maybe I'll work a couple hours on a Saturday. So my work-life balance has been exponential. Like I DJ for, 5-10 hours a week, which was probably one of the biggest positive things that came out of the pandemic. Was leading up into right before we shut down, I was doing a couple of classes in New York City to draw inspiration for things that I wanted to run at my gym. And I went to a class that had a live DJ, and I'm like, this is fucking sick. Yeah. I'm bringing this to my gym. So we built out our 3,500 square foot basement, literally put a New York City club sound system down there. I started teaching myself to DJ, and then our business shut down. I put $88,000 into our basement. I had to replace 2 rooftop units, and literally a month later, like, we were fucking closed for the pandemic.
Is that when you opened the brothel?
But
that's where you met a Rob. He was wearing the choker.
I had free time. So what's interesting is because now on my Facebook memories, I'm getting all these memories from 4 years ago from me going on Facebook Live and just DJing for Facebook Live.
In the basement.
For people in the basement.
Dude, that's an underground nightclub. Perfect. It's underground.
Next week, I'm going to be at like one of New York's most famous like rooftop opening swim parties, DJing a gig. So,
really?
Yeah.
That's wild.
And you guys,
awesome.
And some of you motherfuckers quit after the first attempt at trying to fix yourself. And this guy learned how to DJ. He kept his business alive.
Became an aerobic expert. I spent.
So I want to go into that because I have a love-hate relationship with the air bike, and I want to ask you. Okay, first of all,
mine you can't see. Mine's it's behind the other regular bike. You can't see it.
Back there.
I got the Rogue one. There. I got the Rogue one.
So that's the one you have to have.
Why? The air runner, the ski erg, the rower, and the Rogue air bike. Those are the cardio equipment that I don't use.
That's where Jim. That's where Jim hangs most of his clothing on.
Yeah. I put like little squirrels and mice on it, and then I see if I can get them going.
So
we have a joke here that we're gonna power our fucking gym with the air bikes. So.
You should. You probably will be able to. So why, John? Why the air bike?
So I think the easiest way for me to respond to this, and I think John Goodman at Raise the Bar 2 years ago highlighted this for me really well. And I had been really interested, and I had already written a training manual for the air bike. But he says, you really got to find the quiet space. And there isn't any meaningful programming and education around the air bike. And when you think about the air bike, like the air bike has been around for so long and it's still in motion. It's like kettlebells. Like remember that period of time, I would say from like 1998 to maybe like 2008, 2009.
Yes.
No one fucking talked about kettlebells anymore. And then all of a sudden fucking kettlebells came back. And now everyone's doing fucking kettlebells because like they make sense. They're great. They're effective. They're efficient. Both of your grandfathers probably rode a fucking air bike. Like they just, they fucking work.
The skinny brown one that was in the garage that you found after they died.
Is when people get on an air bike, the only thing they do is push as hard as they fucking can, and then they get off and die. The air bike will always win.
Always.
No, the air bike will always fucking win.
Oh, yeah.
For me, personally, I love competing in sport. I played football. I played lacrosse. I played a lot of pickup basketball. And in 2017, I tore my meniscus, and then on the leg that I had ACL reconstruction on, I went and got an MRI. I had no ACL left. I had a fuck ton of arthritis. So I couldn't do a lot of the normal lower body training that I had typically been used to. So part of my rehab process was just doing the air bike because it's one of the only things I can fucking sprint really, really hard and my knee doesn't feel like it's going to explode. So I started doing more and more air bike work, and I'm like, fuck, my resting heart rate is going down. My engine is fucking forever. My aesthetic is changing for the positive. It's a full body workout. So just the benefits were just immeasurable for me. And now I'm like, well, fuck. I upgraded my assault bikes to the Rogue Echo bike, and I'm like, oh, these things are fucking badass. And I joined this like Echo bike group because I started doing some pretty good stuff on the Echo bike. So I joined this Echo bike group I like looked on Facebook on like Rogue Echo bike group, and there's this group, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a bunch of other fucking beasts that like put up crazy numbers on the air bike. So I post something up, and I quickly realized that the group was filled with people who ride the air bike, but they're just average people that were not posting crazy numbers, and they were just not putting any structure around the air bike. It would be like, oh, I did 10 calorie sprints and now I'm fucking laying on my floor trying to find the Lord. Like they just weren't doing anything that made sense. So I call it, I Trojan horse this Facebook group and started to provide some education, provide some workouts. I did actual virtual rides for people. I've had people from Australia to San Diego, like all over, do virtual rides with me on Zoom. And then I wrote a training manual for it. And then at that point, it just became so indoctrinated into my day-to-day programming. And when you are a gym owner and you work with student athletes and someone who is 6'10" and 400 pounds, if you can find a piece of equipment or a type of program that can work for both of those ends of the spectrum, you found something that could work for fucking everybody in between. Man. And the air bike requires no fucking skill. Anyone can get on the air bike unless you have some type of crazy injury. But if you got 2 arms and 2 legs, you can ride the air bike, which is most of the people that we deal with.
You could even be missing one of those limbs and still do it.
I don't have to teach you how to do anything.
Yeah.
And you will be really good at regulating. If I tell you to just pedal for 10 minutes and you go a little too fast, you'll slow down on your own. Or if you start off really, really slow and you feel good, you will speed up on your own. So it's one of the best things for someone to just to assess someone with, but also for someone to just get in fitness and not have to worry about an incredible amount of coaching, cueing, learning, and for $600 to $1,000 and occupying a very, very small footprint, you get a lot of value out of that equipment, and it doesn't occupy a lot of space. And as a gym owner, I really, really assess how much does this cost, how much space does it take up, and how big of an impact can it have on my members. And the air bike.
Have you? Go ahead. We should send that clip to Rogue and just see.
Dude, I have been trying.
How do you not have an affiliate with the?
I have fucking 10 Echo bikes in this thing. I have done a 999 calorie ride in a fucking blizzard and have taken pictures the fucking bike was squeaking because it was icing, but it still worked. I'm like, your machine is so badass. I rode it in a blizzard. I did a century ride on the air bike, 100 miles straight.
4 hours?
4 hours and 21 minutes on the air bike. I burned 3,505 calories on the Echo bike.
God.
And if you don't know, on the Echo bike, it only goes up to 999 calories. So I watched it go from 999 to 1 3 times riding the bike. So I have done anything and everything to try and just get some mention from Rogue. Whether they do it or not, I don't care. But I've had a continuing education workshop that provided CEUs from the NSCA and NASM here at the gym. I have clients who have purchased Echo bikes because I have essentially demanded them to do it. And right now at our gym, we're doing, every May, we do the Tour de Moljo, a month dedicated to accumulating as many calories as you can on the air bike. And then we do it to raise awareness and raise money for the Special Olympics.
Well. Somebody definitely bought and tried to fuck an air bike after you getting them pumped up. I'm like pumped up. I'm like, I'm about to get on mine. I'm about to slide my beans on it. I might bareback that air bike after that speech, man. That was awesome.
I got a couple of technical like X's and O training questions.
Oh God.
Sure.
So one of the metrics on the air bike, obviously, in a lot of cardio equipment, you'll see the calorie number.
Yep.
So can you just describe what that actually means to folks and whether or not that's an important metric to measure?
I really think they should take the word calories off of the air bike and should change it to points.
Yeah, I like that.
On any cardiovascular machine, and this is specific to the Echo bike.
That's great.
Specific to the Echo bike, every 1,200 watts you generate on the Echo bike is equivalent to 1 calorie. So depending on what your cadence or your RPM is going to dictate what your wattage is at. So if you're riding at 70 RPMs, it's roughly 390 watts. For every 1,200 watts you generate, you get 1 calorie. Should be 1 fucking point.
Yeah.
And then that's essentially what you would measure over time. If I did a 20-minute ride and I scored 200 points, the Echo bike will give you your average RPM for the ride or your average wattage for the ride, and then your max wattage and your max RPM.
Do you use that language in your gym?
Yes.
Points?
No, I'll say calories because that's what people.
So I think it'd be interesting if you're like, listen, the bike says calories.
My people know. It's like, oh, I burned. They're not the type of people. They're not going to sit there and say, oh, I did 100 calories on the air bike, so I'm going to go eat this 100-calorie bag of chips. They know that those aren't equivalents.
Yeah, it'd be interesting just even what that does for somebody psychologically, because even though they know it, like, are they really kind of sitting there thinking about it? Would it be like, dude, I got 100 points.
Yeah.
How quick did you get 100 points? I got it this quick. Like, if it would change the way people talk potentially.
From a psychology standpoint, you can equate it to it because burning calories on the Echo bike for the average person is really fucking hard. So when someone gets on the Echo bike, if someone's saying for fat loss and they're like, oh man, I ate this candy bar and it was 300 calories, and then I sit there and I go do that on the Echo bike. They're not going to fucking eat the candy bar. They're going to be like, what? No way. That's going to take me 2 days. Like, I'm not doing it. So people understand that it's not equivalent, but it's also psychologically can be beneficial for someone to say, fuck, this thing's 300 calories. Like, I did the Echo bike for 20 minutes and I was only 150 calories and I worked really, really hard. So I probably shouldn't, But to make the argument, like, if your goal is fat loss, really work on diet and your exercise is, either secondary or tertiary to your nutrition, it'll drive that factor home for people as well.
Yeah. And the idea that exercise burns this astronomical amount of calories, I think, is always interesting because it just doesn't. And even if it even did, it's so immeasurable or hard to measure. I just think that sometimes we have these metrics in our face, and even like I was never really a proponent of like workout apps or anything like that, but I downloaded the Heavy app yesterday. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it or use it. It's like the Strong app.
Heavy?
It's HEVY. And it basically just you load your movements in there. It tracks like your weight, your reps, rest times, and shit like that. And it's so funny how the human brain immediately wants to adopt these constraints. So what I noticed is like I started the workout and immediately the timer starts running. And I'm on the ground foam rolling. And immediately in my head, I'm like, well, I got to get foam rolling done quick because this thing's already tracking my time on my workout. I don't want to spend more than an hour working out. So I got to, and I'm like, wait, it doesn't fucking matter what the X is. It doesn't matter. But that's where the human brain went. So I think sometimes when we constrain our clients with certain metrics that aren't super valuable to them, it limits their ability to actually show up, perform, and enjoy what they're supposed to do. So when it comes to something like the air bike, I have one. I bought one for $70 on Facebook Marketplace. It's a bad $70. I drove like an hour.
It's definitely not an Echo bike though.
It's not an Echo bike.
It's
a great grandfather,
1950 Schwinn or something.
Yeah.
I will say this: it is phenomenally more difficult than the Echo bike. The resistance on it is so goddamn hard. Like it's the worst quad burn I've ever had because I'm drilling into this thing, and like I actually feel my rhomboids working when I'm pulling through it. But it's a badass little piece of machinery for $70, and like you said, it takes up no fucking space.
I don't want to go into the physiology too much, but as a coach, I understand the importance of having your clients work in different energy systems. And in training, people working in different energy systems, but it's random. They work hard and they get into zone 3 or zone 4, and they like immediately have to come down to zone 1 or zone 2 to recover. They don't strategically work through zones. The air bike allows you to get someone, all right, let's get into zone 2, and
keep it.
Zone 2 might be 55, 60 RPMs to start, but as you fatigue, you can drop down to 51, 52 just to maintain zone 2. And the air bike allows you to get into your zones, in and out of your zones so effectively and so efficiently. Like you can't do that doing kettlebells. You can't do that on a fucking treadmill. Like
no.
You can work from, I can get you to zone 5 like that, and depending on how good aerobically you are, I can get you back down to zone 2 or zone 3, and you can maintain that. So I think it's important when you're working with clients, especially on cardiovascular. You had the king of this stuff at your conference, Joel Jameson, but having someone do a 60-minute workout, and this is why I love Garmin. You can give someone a 60-minute workout and it'll plot out. They spent 2 minutes, 10 minutes in zone 2, 15 minutes in zone 3, and then 20 minutes in zone 4. But how they did that is different. Did they do that from an interval standpoint? I touched zone 4 and then came down to zone 2, or did I hold zone 2 for 10 minutes, then climbed up and held zone 3 for 10 minutes and then climbed up? Because those are two different types of workouts, and the air bike is one of the best pieces of equipment that gets someone to be able to do that. And it's easy because I can see, like, all right, I know now if I want to ride in zone 2, I have to be at like 59, 60 RPMs is generally where I'm at. So I could tell my client, I need you to be in zone 2. They don't know what the fuck that is, but I as a coach know, all right, your range is 55 to 60 RPMs. Just hold that for me, 55 to 60 RPMs. And I know that's going to be zone 2 for them.
If someone wanted to start working on this and they wanted to get a heart rate monitor, what do you recommend for them?
I use Garmin.
Chest strap.
I have a chest strap. Yeah, chest strap is always going to be 100% more accurate than the wrist. Okay. I would say I'm not going to tell someone to go out and go buy this stuff. If you're a client of mine, most of them will have Garmins and they do have chest straps. Just because the more knowledge and information I have about my client's performance, the better I can program for them. But if you're listening to this and you have any type of wearable, you can compare what the wearable says to the metrics on your machine. And as long as you compare those over time and you have those specific metrics, you'll be able to at least repeat or duplicate the program and measure your progress, which is essentially what we're doing in fitness, period. Anyways.
Yeah. Do you have any starting recommendations for people, especially, I mean, it doesn't have to be on the air bike, but just in general, when it comes to like zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5, just so people have some idea of like, where do they start? What type of standards do they need to hold themselves to be able to increase their
so I think when it comes to zone 2, for most people, that's brisk walking. Like you're able to have a conversation. but you're not out of breath by any means. You're working at a pace, and you have to ask yourself, can I do this for 45 minutes? And if the answer to that question is yes, you're probably right there. If you're looking to get into zone 3, you're kind of like you're constantly flirting with, I can't work any harder because I know I won't be able to go for a long time, but I know I can't go much slower because then it's going to be too easy. That's kind of what that zone feels like. Zone 4, you're like, uh-oh, like for my clients will look at me and they'll be like, is it like, this isn't normal. I'm not okay. How long can I do this for? And it's like, you're going to get there. This is going to be a very, very short duration. And you generally don't want your people in zone 5 too much. They might get there accidentally because they worked really, really hard, but like, you don't need to tell someone when they're in zone 5, because if a general client gets into zone 5, they're going to get themselves out of zone 5 really, really fast. But if you have people who are endurance-based clients and high-performing clients, we call like clients who are capable of redlining, like me personally, like I could redline, I can get into zone 5 and I could be in zone 5 for a long period of time, but I'm conditioned to do so. If you're working with athletes who can do that, they're already at a point where they're aerobically or anaerobically so fit that they don't need an incredible amount of coaching. They know their gears, they know their limitations, and I think they know how to meet the different demands required that their coach is asking them for. But most general population, those are the simple tests. Can you do this for 45 minutes and have a conversation? Yes. And, zone 4 is when they kind of give you the eyes, like, I think my trainer's making me do something too much. Like, that's kind of zone 4. And then zone 5, they'll shut it down themselves. Their body has a defense mechanism to just fucking off,
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a misconception between what interval training is versus what's really considered to be high intensity interval training.
Right.
And I think generally people have this idea that I can, and they're usually never really in zone 5. It's really more probably somewhere in zone 3 or 4.
Listen, man, if you're doing something that's fucking hit and you're doing it for fucking 10 minutes or 15 minutes, or you're doing a hit class, you're not doing fucking hit. You're doing interval training. Like high intensity, like when I think of intensity, it's a fucking knockout punch, right? When you watch boxers fight, they don't have unlimited knockout punches. They don't have unlimited knockout power. You got, like, think about like the video games that you used to play, like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. Like, you get 1 or 2 specials. Like, you get 1 or 2 specials of intensity, and once you hit the back, forward, up, down, triangle, square, and you use your fucking special, like, your special is done. It's no longer intensity anymore. It's intense, but there's a difference when you're training max effort intensity and you're throwing that knockout punch, or you're throwing, these 75% punches over and over, which, there's benefit in that as well. But when someone sits there and tells me, oh, I did 20 minutes of Tabatas, I'm like, you don't fucking know what a true Tabata is, and you didn't do it for fucking 20 minutes. I'm sorry. Like, if you did something for 20 minutes, you were doing aerobic work, and occasionally it was anaerobic. I'm sorry. Like,
So how would you structure a true HIIT program on an air bike for somebody?
I think that's so, for me to give a generic response to that would just
it's got to be obviously
malpractice, because because I'm such a detail oriented coach, especially when it comes to the air bike. But if I was going to coach someone on the air bike, it wouldn't be to mess with high intensity thresholds. It would really be, hey, let's get on the bike for 10 minutes, and I want you to work at a 4 out of 10 RPE. And then the bike is going to give me what your average watt was, and say or your average RPM. And then I'm going to say, I want you to do that again. And I want you to do it and just hold 1 RPM higher for the entire time. I would start someone from the bottom and work them up to higher intensity. Because if you raise the floor, you generally raise the ceiling most of the time. Too many people in training, and just think about like in nutrition coaching, you wouldn't tell someone to go max effort, make all of these changes right now. Like everything's going to come burning down, right? And with the air bike, you will get a lot more value and a lot more benefit. And I think any type, even in strength training, if you start someone here and you move them here and you move them here and you move them here, I don't give a fuck what your your max output is right now. If I put you on this training in 6 weeks and I find out, like, I know your max is going to be higher in 6 weeks without having to test your max ever. And like the reality is, like, you put someone on the air bike and you test their max, they're going to hate it. Like, why do you think most people hate the air bike? Because that's what they do. They get on it and they get absolutely crushed by it. I'm more impressed someone can get on and they can hold 55 RPMs or 40 RPMs for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and you could do some heavy breathing for a prolonged period of time. There's way more value in that. It's way more impressive, way more fitness benefit. It's much safer, and there's actually going to be some potential ways to scale you forward, as opposed to get on the bike and 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off until you either throw up or the bike beeps, whichever happens first.
The bike beeps.
Yeah,
I had an old coach. I had an old coach that was programming the bike. It was a 5 minute on, like they established exactly what you're saying, like the baseline, the pace, and then like 5 minutes off, 5 minutes on, like 3 to 5 rounds, and then it was higher RPM, 5 minute rest. Then it was higher RPM. Then like over time, then it was all right. We're doing a 4 minute and 30-second rest at that RPM. Like that was the way, and they were brutal.
Yeah.
They were brutal.
Yeah, people just don't value. It's funny because we have this very odd, and I used to be in this camp too, like, oh, cardio is going to kill your strength gains or cardio is going to kill your muscle gains. And the reality is it's not going to, because nobody's going to do enough of it.
Listen, I can tell you from experience, because I've been doing this for 6 years now.
Sorry.
I generally, February and March, February, March, and April, I'll focus on strength training. In May, I just ride the fucking bike. And in June, I PR everything. I'll do the most amount of push-ups, the most amount of chin-ups, I do my half my body weight goblet squat tests, like all of those numbers. Every year, I'm going on year 6, I know what happened. I PR all of them. And I don't even do them in May.
Yeah, and that's why I even tell people, like, you're going to maintain your strength, but you lose your cardio real fucking quick.
100%.
And that's why I think it's such a people have this love-hate relationship with cardio, because they have the sweat equity, which gives them that dopamine hit. But then if they don't stay on top of it, or if they don't challenge themselves to grow with it and progress with it, then that's the first thing that goes. Like, you'll maintain your strength standard relatively easily. Like, you can back down your training to fucking 20% of where it was before, and you won't lose much. But if you stop or don't continue doing cardio, it's the first thing to go, and it's the shittiest thing to try to get back.
Well, and I think fitness is trendy now, right? And now that I'm in the Instagram world, what do I see? It's very hyper focused on strength training and aesthetics.
Yeah,
and that could just be my algorithm, but
no, you're not far off.
Look at what people post. People are posting their lifts, and they're posting the way they look. No one's posting, I just did 60 minutes of this aerobic work, and like, no one posts that shit. It's fucking boring and nobody fucking cares. But like, you give me somebody who's got a fucking unstoppable engine, like, that is I want to be strong when I'm older, but your cardiovascular system is way more essential than your fucking biceps and your triceps, right?
Oh, 1,000%.
I can live at 100 years old without biceps and triceps. I can't live without my cardiovascular system. So they're both very important, absolutely. But again, fitness is trendy, and right now I think the trend is very, very aesthetic, bodybuilding split. Like, I've got these, they're in college. They come home and I'm like, oh, like, what'd you lift? They're like, back and by. I'm like, when's the last time you did any cardio? Push the sled, and they.
Well, I trained. It is cardio, bro.
Green. They turn green. I'm like, oh, your aerobic is shit.
Yeah.
That's cool. Like, go run a lap around the building. They come in. I don't feel good. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Your biceps look okay.
Yeah, but your biceps. Well, and I fall into that trap because I don't pay nearly enough attention to my cardiovascular health, and it suffers. Like, I know my blood pressure is higher because of it. I know that my engine just isn't there like it should be, and like I just said, I can easily maintain my physique and my body composition and my muscle mass and my strength with very little effort in the gym, but I have to focus on the thing that I know I suck at. And I think so many people shy away from these types of things because they're uncomfortable, because they're unfamiliar, because they take more mental fortitude than something else does that they are familiar with. So I think something like implementing the same type of metrics that you would like with reps and sets on your training, you can put the same type of framework into a cardiovascular program and make it just as fun.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And you could mix it in. Like you don't have to separate it. Some of my favorite workouts to do is I'll do 300 calories on the bike. Every 30 calories, I'll pause the bike. I'll get underneath the bench and I'll fucking hit 10 reps on the bench, and then I'll get back on the bike. Like you can do those things. And I know when we look at the science and education, it's like, well, if your goal is strength, then you should do strength training first and then cardio second. If your goal is cardio, you should do cardio. If your goal is to be aerobically fit and fucking strong, you could do both of them together. I don't fucking care. Like, look at CrossFit athletes. They do both of them together, and they're the fittest fucking people in the world. They might not have the most appropriate programming for general population, but you can scale that back so that someone can do a strength training lift and then do some type of aerobic work. People only have 60 minutes, if that, 2 to 3 times per week. You have to make them both work together. Like I don't care who you are, any fucking coach, no client, if you sit there and say, go give me 60 minutes of zone 2 work, I guarantee you that is the most missed workout of any remote coaching program. But if you're like, go work out your glutes and your fucking your chest, people will hit that. They'll neglect it. But if I sprinkle in your fucking glutes and your chest with a little bit of fucking cardio, then I know it's going to get done. So.
Yep. Yeah, and it's hard. It's like you said, we're so constrained on time, and everybody's so worried about optimal when they don't even have the fundamentals in place. Like you don't get to pick and choose right now. Like you have to build a base first, and then once you start getting accustomed to some level of a regular routine, then you have some splits in the road where you get to have some fun with it. But do what you got to do first, and then you get to kind of do what you want to do afterwards. So I think that's an important point to have to make. Jimmy, what? Well, I mean, listen, I think we squeezed plenty of juice out of this fucking lemon.
Yeah.
So if anybody needs an ass kicking cardiovascularly, John will very happily provide that for you. Absolutely. Just DM him on Instagram. I can't thank you enough for what you did in March. That will always.
Thank everybody else, man.
Well, listen, you put your hat out. You put the plate out. They just started putting shit into it. So,
look, man, I could only imagine the amount of time, effort, resources, and mental capacity it took into putting that type of event together. And for someone who values education and values experiences, I selfishly wanted to make sure that it was going to happen again because I want to be back at that event.
Do you want to DJ? Do you want to DJ next year?
I was literally thinking that. I'm like, I wonder if Iran would just let me DJ party at night.
Yeah, fuck those comedians. Get the fucking DJ.
Comedians are good, but I only DJ house music though. Like that's
fine.
One
dude, you got, and then it's G right here, dude. And then we'll get them like video clips from like the day, and that'll be like before the drop. It'll be like Dr. Al Bacon. Listen, we've all talked plenty about creatine. Take 5 grams a day. You don't have to load. And it just fucking drops.
Yeah, but then John won't be able to actually enjoy the conference. He'll be sitting there like trying to film stuff to try to put his reels together.
No, I won't do any of the filming. Someone else can.
Dude, he just needs a 10-second.
Like, I should tell Iran, like, hey, if you consider it like an after party or the end of the night party rather than have to rile everyone up to go.
Yeah. First thing I thought of this year. Don't worry, John. I'm way ahead of you.
All you need is a 10-second clip of anybody speaking. You know what? My favorite kind of alcohol was cocaine. Was that Theo Von? Do you ever see that? I love those videos.
It smells.
Yeah. Dude, I love those videos where like the DJs will put anything before the drop. Yeah. My favorite type of alcohol was cocaine.
No, I'll just do that. But I'll do like a bunch of bullshit like fitness myths or like
yeah.
There before.
Don't eat fruit. There's too much sugar in it. It'll cause insulin sensitivity issues. That'd be great.
Well, at least we have a choreographer, so that's going to help.
Yeah.
But, John, thank you for coming on today. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you guys for having me.
I'm sure we'll be seeing each other sooner than later. And
sure.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
We'll leave you with our final question.
Yeah.
Final question of the day so we can compare and judge you to every former guest. Bye-bye.